Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into something absolutely foundational. We're going to take thousands of years of complex philosophy, established neuroscience, and systems theory, and we're mashing it all together into something incredibly practical. We're calling it a human operating system. So if you've ever felt like you're just kind of reacting to life rather than actually designing it, well, you are in exactly the right place.
You know, since the dawn of human civilization, one massive question has quietly guided every culture, every religion, and every scientific discovery. Who are we and why are we here? For literally millennia, we've been searching for answers. Philosophers looked inward to contemplation, scientists looked outward to the physical laws of the universe, and psychologists, they look right into the human mind. Each of these disciplines gives us a crucial piece of the puzzle, but today we're going to look at how all these pieces fit together into one beautifully coherent map.
So let's get right into it. The architecture of awareness proposes that we can actually look at human existence as an upgradable operating system. Think of it as a structured process, a real game changer for self-discovery, decision-making, and just continuous personal development. Now, we aren't trying to replace science or spirituality here, no way. Instead, we're giving you a highly practical map to organize your ideas, ask better questions, and ultimately live with so much more clarity and intention.
Here's our blueprint for today. First, the human operating system. Second, navigating universal reality. Third, the biological interface. Fourth, designing your identity. Fifth, the internal compass. And finally, number 6, purpose, mission, and vision. All right, let's jump right in.
Section 1. The Human Operating System. From the cosmos to daily decisions.
Think about the physical hardware of life, the physical universe, the laws of physics, and your biological brain. You can't just change gravity or the basic wiring of your nervous system, right? That reality is fixed. It is what it is. But then you have your software. That's your identity, your values, and your beliefs. And honestly, the true beauty, and yeah, sometimes the absolute extreme frustration of being human, is that you have the complete power to redesign and rewrite this code.
Moving on to Section 2, Navigating Universal Reality, Mapping the System You Live in.
So the absolute crucial point here is understanding how we process the universe around us. Reality is just constantly generating raw data, but when we organize that data, it becomes information. Let's break that down. Data is just seeing water drops. Information is knowing it's raining outside. Knowledge is knowing that rain makes you wet. Understanding is realizing that if you get wet and cold, you might catch a cold. And wisdom? Well, wisdom is simply grabbing an umbrella before you leave the house. We are progressively taking these raw observations of the universe and transforming them into purposeful action. That's how you build a life well lived.
Now look at the contrast here, because this highlights one of the biggest bugs in our human software, confusing objective reality with our subjective interpretation. The objective reality might simply be, I failed the interview. It's an event. It's just a fact. But our awareness filters that information and suddenly creates a story, like, I am a failure. See the difference? That is an interpretation. Learning to sharply contrast the hard facts from your own internal stories is literally step 1 in taking back control of your operating system.
Section 3. The biological interface. The brain as a processor.
Within this framework, we aren't just looking at the brain as a squishy physical organ. No, it is the biological interface. It's the critical processor that connects the outside world to your inner conscious experience. It takes in sensory information, links it up with your memory, evaluates what it all means, and then spits out decisions. It's the literal bridge between the vast physical universe and your own personal internal awareness.
And here's the best part. Because it's an interface, it can be optimized. We like to call this the cognitive architecture engine. Think of these as 6 highly trainable capacities of your brain. You've got attention, which directs your focus to what actually matters. Memory, which organizes your knowledge. Reasoning evaluates the evidence. Creativity generates completely novel connections. Emotional regulation lets you respond thoughtfully instead of just flying off the handle. And metacognition, which is seriously powerful, is your ability to observe and actually improve your own thinking. You can actively upgrade every single one of these capacities. It's literally like downloading a software patch for your brain.
Now, the single most practical tool for this biological interface is something we call the pause. See, your brain is constantly evaluating competing possibilities, and a lot of times it's just reacting on total autopilot. But the pause, that is the deliberate, absolutely crucial space you create between a stimulus and your response. It's that tiny moment where you step back, observe the situation, check in with your values, and choose your intention, rather than just reacting blindly. Metaphorically speaking, you are hitting the pause button on your automatic programming.
Section 4. Designing your identity. Writing your own software code.
You know, most personal development systems out there tell you to start by setting goals. But let's be real, goals change. A much stronger approach is to start with identity. You don't build a meaningful life just by endlessly chasing outcomes. You build it by becoming the kind of person who's actually capable of achieving those outcomes. Identity is built layer by layer. Notice how it starts right at the foundation with your core values. Those values shape your beliefs, which then inform your character, your personality, and ultimately your strengths. If you want meaningful life design, the whole shebang has to start right here.
Now pay really close attention to this next distinction, because it is incredibly empowering. Personality describes how you naturally tend to behave, like whether you're introverted, outgoing, structured, or maybe a bit more flexible. Character, on the flip side, describes how you choose to behave. A naturally shy person can absolutely choose to act with courage. A naturally spontaneous person can choose to be disciplined. Your personality is really just your starting point, but your character, that's something you actively build through the choices you make every single day.
Section 5. The internal compass. Navigating by values and beliefs.
We all know the saying, you cannot improve what you don't measure. So this is the Wheel of Life Gap Analysis Table, and it is a super practical framework you can literally use right now. Basically, you list out your major life domains, things like health, relationships, career. Then you honestly score where you currently are and you score where you desire to be. The difference between those two numbers is the gap. Real growth begins with understanding this gap. It tells you exactly where your internal operating system is out of balance and exactly where you need to direct your focus first.
And once you know where to focus, you need a reliable way to make better decisions so you can close that gap. Enter the Values Calibration Engine. Before you make any major life choice, just run it right through this filter. First, ask yourself, is your interpretation actually true? Second, is it aligned with my core values? Third, am I acting on real evidence? Fourth, who else is affected by this? And finally, and honestly most importantly, does this decision fit the identity I aspire to have? Using this engine ensures that your life is guided by examined, intentional values, not just some fleeting impulses.
Section 6. Purpose, Mission, and Vision. The ultimate output.
A lot of people tend to confuse these three terms, but in our architecture, they have very distinct, super powerful roles. Purpose gives your life meaning. It's your ultimate why. Mission gives your life direction. That's the what and the how of your daily actions. And vision? Vision gives your life a destination. It is the crystal clear picture of the future you are actively trying to build. When your identity is locked in, your values are calibrated, and these three elements perfectly align, well, that's when your operating system is running at its absolute highest potential.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to chew on. I want you to take a hard look at your own code today. Ask yourself, are your daily actions becoming consistent with the person you actually aspire to be? Because remember, you don't just have to run the software you were given by default. You have the absolute power to write the software you want. Thank you so much for learning with me today, and I really hope this helps you execute a massive upgrade to your life's operating system. Catch you next time.